Welcome to another episode of the Chrissy Mayer podcast. We are on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And if you're listening right now on iTunes, please go and leave a 5-star review. Like I said, these reviews, they can be creepy, flirty. It could be you trying out and giving me an old family recipe. You could say anything you want in these reviews. I won't be upset. Just make sure they're 5 stars. That's all I care about. And I will read the best reviews every week, so long as they have those 5 stars right there. And I want to talk about a couple sponsors real quick. Silk City Hot Sauce. I'm a big fan of these guys because they are involved on Twitter. They're very funny. They retweet me a lot. Go to silkcityhotsauce.com. Use the promo code CMP. You're going to get 15% off your whole order. They're going to throw in for you for free a bottle of this sick-ass sweet cherry sriracha and some free stickers. Again, go to silkcityhotsauce.com and use the promo code CMP for 15% off. Also, I'd like you to go to adamandeve.com and use the same special code. Just write CMP and just try it at every website and we'll see what happens. Go to adamandeve.com and use the special code CMP at the checkout so you can get almost any item for 50% off, because we all know part of staying at home is playing at home. And, there's a lot more time indoors now, so we should be using that to have better sex. And when you use the discount code CMP, you'll get some bonus gifts like 6 spicy movies, a 3-piece bonus set, and free delivery. Adam and Eve has thousands of gifts, toys, and movies to help us lock down some good sex. I recently took a vibrator break for the whole month of August. I'm back now, but I'm going to try not to rely on it so I don't ruin my vagina. But maybe I will. Maybe that'll be what September is about for me. Anyway, go to adamandeve.com. Use the promo code CMP, baby. I am so excited to have this guy on the show today. I'm a fan. He's an inspiration to me and thousands of others in this country. He is the creator, the founder of the Walk Away campaign, which is basically speaking to a huge group of the country, a huge silent majority, as you will, of the country who has been kind of afraid to come out and say how they really feel about politics. They'll be doing Rescue America rallies all over the U.S., which we will talk about. There's one coming up next month in D.C., so there's a lot of activities and fun shit because he's getting out there. He's doing stuff. Brandon Strzok, how are you, buddy?
Good. I'm envious, obviously, of like your reach, because I'm sponsored by the grassroots of this country, which is really cool, but you're sponsored by hot sauce and porn.
Yes.
And I kind of feel like one of us has made it and the other one hasn't yet.
Oh my God. But you were on Tucker Carlson. It's really, we're neck and neck. Yes, there is talk. Maybe one of the flavors of hot sauce might be named after me. Like I'm just gonna hope and pray. Yeah, there might be like a fiery redhead flavor coming out. I don't know. Maybe it's gonna taste like depression and student loans. I don't know, but it's still very exciting to have anything.
If you had to choose, though, honestly, would you rather have a hot sauce named after you or an Adam and Eve product?
Wow. You know what? That's really tricky because but not everyone, I would think more people use hot sauce, but maybe that's not the case.
Yeah, but I think it's really about how they feel when they're using your product.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying. But I don't want you to have to Sophie's Choice your sponsors.
It is tricky. It is so tricky, but it's like maybe it's a little bit dirtier to be like, yeah, taste me. Put me on your eggs in the morning. Yeah. Put me on your chicken,
Sure.
Brandon, I think you've been blowing up. You've been here and there, everywhere. You're doing a lot of exciting things. From what I know, this campaign started about 2 years ago in 2018. You are much like myself. I was sort of a very liberal, went to a liberal college, graduated, was kind of like an auto Democrat, voted, it's what all your friends are doing. You're not going to seek out anything to the contrary. You said, I think it was on a video or an interview, you're like, I voted for Hillary. I'm really sorry. Whereas I voted for Jill Stein and immediately lost friends over it. I had people giving me so much shit. I lost friends because people thought I voted for Trump. And I've had kind of an interesting journey as well from,
But
you know,
what a vote for Jill Stein is a vote for Trump.
essentially, right? I was just like, I didn't really know 4 years ago because I just was like, I don't know about Trump. I definitely don't like Hillary. And I don't know. I think Jill ended up using all that money towards a hot tub or something. I don't know for sure. I think I just heard something that she misused funds. Whatever. You got to have a little fun if you're a politician, I guess. Um, for me, my on sort of like, I don't know if I had a definitive like I'm done with the Democrats moment. For about 6 years, I ran an LGBT comedy show in New York City at the Stonewall Inn, which is a famous, New York City landmark, also national landmark. Like my pride and joy. Like I never had so much fun hosting a show than at this place. It was like the only really regular comedy show there, and certainly the only like monthly LGBT show in the city. And I took so much pride in like scouting new talent, and also getting in like sluggers from this Comedy Cellar to come over, and the shows would be so great, and people would come. Not to like toot my own horn, but like I spent a lot of money on ads, and I spent like a lot of money on just promotion, and people would come in from out of the country, and like it's Stonewall, it's on their to-do list anyway, and then they would come and see the show. It would sell out. It would be awesome. And then like a couple of years after doing the show, I would just get like here and there like some shitty comments from other comics in the LGBT community. Like a few of them were like, oh, she doesn't deserve that show. I'm basically bisexual, but I'm not like telling people that. Like I've been with a guy for a few years. So, I mean, if anything, at this point, I feel like I am a non-practicing bisexual, but I'm also like not really like label-y either. But I had people telling me she doesn't deserve that show. And I remember I made
Is there a straight woman at Stonewall? Is that why?
Pretty much. Yeah. I was like, wow. To me, yeah, it's like I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm like probably more straight than more bisexual at this point. But like,
but I mean, that's where they were coming.
Who knows? Yeah. I mean, a few drinks can change a lot. So exactly. So I was getting this hate, like she doesn't deserve this show. Why has it been lasting so long? It's like, because I work my ass off. And then I remember I made this one joke on Twitter. It was about like a bird was barking like a dog, and I was like, oh, this bird is transitioning. It was like obviously a stupid joke, and then somebody was like, she's a whack ally, and I had like a lot of shit and judgment coming at me from just a few people in the sort of like LGBT comedy scene. Like meanwhile, these people, they're not like great comics, and like I later found out, I'm like, I think they're just salty because they weren't getting booked. But all the same, the judgment did not feel good, and the work I was putting in, I was like, wow, I feel like I'm doing a really good thing for the community, and the shows are really great. And that for me started to put a few cracks in my, like, I guess sort of like liberal facade, and I started being like, wow, aren't we supposed to be inclusive? Aren't we supposed to like love one another and be like, if this is a thing that raises up LGBT comics, like, shouldn't we be on board and support it? And for me, like, I wasn't like, oh, I'm definitely walking away. But now that I look back, it was like a few moments like that made me realize like, oh, this is not the party that I once thought it was. And for you, I know you've said in a past interview that a big moment for you was somebody sent you a video of, Trump making fun of the disabled reporter debunked. And it was actually, it turned out that it was a thing, it was a motion and a voice that he had done to make fun of countless others, to just explain what it's like when you're caught in a lie and you're awkward. Would you say that would be your defining walk away moment, or were there other times?
Well, that was the moment that got me started researching about the honesty of the media. And yes, to answer your question, that was the most definitive moment that began my journey, which ultimately led to me walking away. But these things are and I know that you understand this, like these things are very difficult to encapsulate, even in an hour-long interview, because what ends up happening is people are like, oh, so you saw that Trump, they did one thing and then you changed your mind and changed parties. And it's like, no, jackass, I didn't like completely reverse my thinking based off of one thing. It was like things that had happened for years, like you just named. And I had a number of incidents like what you described with the LGBT community. I had that too with the LGBT community, and I had it with racial minorities, and I had it, and all these things they just start adding up over time. And you like, listen, I'll just say it, and I really don't give a shit if racial minorities like it or not. Like, if you're a white person, we get really sick and tired of hearing how privileged we are and hearing like all this crap, and then watching racial minorities get away literally with murder sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know, you start to see the pattern of how everything is interconnected, whether it's the racial minority narrative, the LGBT narrative, the oppressed women narrative, and then the way that they tie that into politics and how we're supposed to feel about, you know, our victimhood status when we go into the voting booth, and how that relates to them saying that Donald Trump mocked a disabled reporter because, you know, we're all, oh my God, we're all bleeding heart people who care about racial minorities and LGBT people and women and the disabled. And it's all tied together, and it's all just manipulative. And when you start to just pull on a little thread, the whole sweater comes apart, and you see that it's all just a bunch of crap. It's all just a bunch of shit. And, you know, there was a moment that I had where there was one day when years ago, I was in, you know, because I'm a New Yorker too, and I was eating lunch in a park, and this guy came up to me, and he was probably Hispanic. I have no idea. I just know that he wasn't Caucasian. And he walked up to me and he stuck his hand in my face and told me that he wanted me to give him money. And I started laughing, and I said no. And he was really insistent. And then I, you know, said something like, I'm assuming I can swear. I think
Of course. Yes. Okay. Go nuts.
Yeah, you know, and I was like, get the fuck away from me, you know, whatever. And he punched me, and he said, you know, you're a white privileged piece of shit.
He punched you?
Yes.
In the face?
I think he hit me like in the arm or something, or, you know, it was like he kind of just clubbed me. But here's the thing. I didn't even care so much about that, because I was like, you know, it's New York. He's probably a crazy person. You know, there's probably, you know, it's not, I wasn't that upset about it. It was what happened next when I got on social media, Facebook, and I told the story on Facebook. And it was like the responses I got, because I said, like, you can't really tell the story about him saying you're a white privileged piece of shit without mentioning that he was not Caucasian. So I mentioned that he's not Caucasian and that he made this comment. And what happened next was all of these people jumped into my comments, and they were like, I'm a white person and nothing like that has ever happened to me before. You clearly must have said something to provoke him. Wow. I think that must be part of the story that you're leaving out, whatever. And what I saw was, I was like, oh my God. Like, I was literally eating my lunch and minding my own business, and a total stranger came up and physically assaulted me and made a racially disparaging remark to me. And I'm being accused, like, they're literally saying you must be lying and leaving part of the story out because a non-Caucasian person would never do that. And I'm like, yes, they would.
Where are they
and
getting
it just
this
happened
from?
right now.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's crap like that where you start to see that liberalism like makes people sociopathic. It like robs people of their empathy, and it makes them nasty and cruel.
Yeah. And I think as far as Facebook goes, it's so interesting. It's like, how many of these comments would be the same had they all been DMs to you privately? I feel like so much of this woke culture is performative, and it's Facebook, and it's semi-public or public, and everybody gets to see them leaving that comment. Oh, this never happened to me, which means I'm a better kind of white person than you, because this hasn't happened to me. I must be doing everything right. And there's this weird contest to be like the best kind of white person. And
but it's also, you're right, but it's also, they say stuff like that to try to invalidate the story and be like, you're clearly lying because I'm a white person, so I can prove that these things don't ever happen to white people. So if it happened to you, it's because you did something to provoke it, and now you're lying about the story.
Yeah, they're literally taking away your voice by invalidating your story. And Correct. It's like, ugh, God, that's fucking infuriating. And like what we're seeing now, like the verbal attacks are only okay if the left is doing it. And if the right, someone from the right does it, or someone who's conservative, it's like, oh, the alt-right, or they're white supremacist, or they're a Nazi. And Um,
What happened to me last Thursday?
yes, I was definitely yeah, absolutely. So this is last week. You were attacked by somebody from BLM in DC as you were leaving the
5 people
Republican
from BLM.
convention. 5 people attacked you, and was it your boyfriend or a friend of yours?
Just a friend of mine, Mike
Yeah.
Harlow. He's a fellow gay conservative. And there was a woman with us too, Libby Albert. The three of us, were friends and coworkers. And yeah, but it was five. Well, let me think this through. 5 people, 4 of them were black, one of them was Caucasian. And they walked past us and called us faggots a bunch of times, and then came back, and because Mike was like, what did you say? Or, something like that. And one of them came back and spit on him. And then
God.
another one she had like a cup in her hand with a drink, and she threw the drink in the cup at me. This is all on video, by the way.
Yeah, I saw the video. It's fucking crazy. It's unbelievable.
All on video. And then the one who threw the cup at me also comes back and hits Libby, the girl, in the arm, and hit her so hard that her phone went flying down the street.
Wow.
And they called us faggots 4 or 5 times throughout the course of that conversation. But as you were just pointing out, this is the time that we live in now, because I mean, can you imagine, look how they reacted with Jussie Smollett when he lied about that happening. But this actually did happen to me, and it happened on camera. Not a word. And they know, by the way, I'm not like an unknown person. Like Fox News has covered it. Tucker Carlson has covered it. Conservative media has been doing stories. They know. CNN knows this happened.
Wow.
MSNBC knows this happened. Gay Don Lemon, gay Anderson Cooper, gay Rachel Maddow, gay Ellen DeGeneres. They all know this happened. Not a word.
Gay Chris Cuomo, right?
Gay Chris Cuomo.
I imagine.
One of all of us. Let's get physical.
Physical.
Yeah.
I love that you brought that up. You were so great on Tucker, by the way. I was like watching, being like, oh my God. Like, were you nervous? Had that been your biggest appearance?
I had done Tucker before.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah. Not to brag.
Brag away.
But no, I've easily done more than 70 Fox News appearances at this point.
Oh shit.
But
okay.
yeah, the biggest one that I would say, well, I mean, doing Tucker is a really big deal, and I've done that a couple of times, but I think the biggest I've ever done is my hour-long sit down with Mark Levin on Life, Liberty, and Levin. He's known as the Great One. And so I got to sit down with the Great One for an hour in 2019. Wow. But to answer your question, yes, and I hate it, but at this point I've done literally thousands of interviews between podcasts, TV interviews, radio interviews, print interviews and stuff. And I'm very at ease doing interviews and being on camera. But most of the time when I do Fox, I still get nervous and I can't control it. And it upsets me that I can't control it. But I mean, I was literally, when they're counting down, 2 minutes, 1 minute, I'm sitting there going, yeah.
You're like telling yourself to breathe. You're like, wow, it's gotten to this point. Great.
Well, you have to come correct when you do Fox, because they're not going to softball the interview. It's never going to be a softball. You may get thrown a curveball that you're not ready for. And the most you can hope for is 5 minutes. You're usually on there for 3 minutes. So you have to make an impact in 3 minutes. And that's, for most people, the amount of time it takes to just get your breath,
Yeah.
But it's like
a late night comedy set, really. It's like you have a few minutes, and the fact that you brought that point up, I don't know if Tucker was expecting that or if that was something you were planning on talking about. The fact that you pointed out all these gay, reporters, journalists, high level, and the fact that they seem to won't acknowledge this looks so bad. I mean, there's so much that makes the left look so bad right now.
But they will support Black Lives Matter. I mean, I called those guys out, not just because they're gay, but because they've all, talked about the peaceful protesters of Black Lives Matter and, this being such an important moment in the civil rights movement and all this bullshit. Mm-hmm. And it's like, your precious Black Lives Matter just attacked 2 gay men on video. What say you about this? Not to mention the fact that there's also a bigger story, frankly, than mine that never got covered by anybody. which are the 3 transgender women in Los Angeles who they literally nearly beat one to death on camera.
When
And
was
they're
this?
laughing through the whole thing. And she's Black, and the other 2 are not Black, but they're laughing their asses off as she's laying there unconscious with blood coming out of her head, and they're going, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, you know?
What? That doesn't even make sense.
It's all on video.
When
It's
did
all
was this recently? Was this
Yes.
summer?
Look up, this was 3 weeks ago.
Goodness.
Look up the story of a transgender girl who goes by the tag Eden the Doll on Instagram.
Okay, I will look that
And
up.
it's all on video.
Damn.
It's it's horrifying.
How do you feel like, do you feel like at times torn, or are there moments of like, well, you're, according to the left, you're part of this one very privileged group, supposedly, but you're also a gay man. But then there's also the third thing of this idea, which I never heard before listening to some of your videos, the idea that there is gay male privilege. Where do you think that came from?
Well, first of all, let me say that I do think that there is privileges and disadvantage to being anybody or anything.
Absolutely.
There's Black privilege, there's white privilege, there's gay privilege, there's straight privilege. There's no denying that there is such a thing as gay privilege, but it's not what the left is calling, because what the left is talking about is that there's a victimhood and oppressor hierarchy, and that exists even within the LGBT community. So if you're a white gay male, you're at the top of the LGBT totem pole. And if you're like a Black trans female, you're at the bottom of the victimhood totem pole. And so what they're telling us is, and honestly that philosophy or way of thinking or whatever was what ultimately drove me away from the gay community.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm still gay. I'm not like an ex-gay or anything. But like, I don't consider myself a part of that community anymore because it's so toxic.
It's wild that awful. You would, that to me is the most divisive, racist thing you could do, is actually like label and rank people.
Yeah, but at this point, now that I've actually sort of officially, left the LGBT community or distanced myself from the community, however you want to say it, I actually encourage this because I want them to repel all of the white gay men, because I don't know what they're holding on for at this point. Like, white gay men get treated like shit within the LGBT community, but they feel, they're still getting the messaging that Republicans hate you, you can't be a conservative, or you can't, so it got bad enough for me that I left, and everybody has their breaking point. Like, so I just want them to keep getting pushed from within until the point where they're like, fuck these guys, fuck all of them. Because it's how many times can you listen to Black trans people's stories and be told that you don't matter, you don't count, your experience. I mean, every white gay man that I know has been beaten up, attacked, been the victim of a hate crime at some point. But now it's like, we don't care. We don't care about what you go through. We don't, try being Black, try being trans.
Wow.
And it's like, well, fuck you. Like, I'm sorry that you're Black, and I'm sorry that you're trans. Like, what that doesn't invalidate my experience.
It almost sounds like, well, you had your time to be ultimate victim during the 50s or whatever. Like, you had the AIDS crisis. Now it's our turn. I don't know. That's like, that
but
might not even.
What are they going through? What are they going through? I mean, it's such a lie. All of it is such a lie. And, the left loves to push this thing about, Black, trans women of color, are endangered in this country and stuff. What they don't tell you is that every Black trans woman who's been murdered has been murdered by a Black or Hispanic person.
Wow.
A friend of mine who works for Breitbart did all of the research on every trans woman of color who was murdered last year. And it was, I'm going to screw this up now, I'd have to look again. It's either 19, I think it was 19 last year that were killed.
Holy shit.
One of them was killed by a Black or Hispanic man. Not a single white man killed the trans women of color. So stop it.
Wow.
Stop it with
Yeah.
Black Trans Lives Matter. Stop it with the Black Lives Matter, or at least try to get that message to your own community, because they're the ones killing you.
Get that message to the right people. It's a lot of like preaching to the choir. It's become so just like devolved and like wacky, and it's it's crazy. It's like, where did this start? Where did it come from? Why do you think until now? And it's great. Like you're a real leader here, because a lot of people are afraid to like sort of come out as conservatives, or like even, but the fact that you're like a gay male, I think it gives a lot of people a lot of, you know, really bravery, you know. It's like, because, and I'm not sure how it started, but like, why do LGBT folks sort of like why was it always like you're going to automatically vote Democrat? Like what caused like the auto vote? Because like Trump has done, I think, more for LGBT folks than you know, a lot of other presidents recently. Yet there's this horrible like rumor, like he's trying to take your rights away. He's trying to, you know, where does it? I mean, I'm assuming it comes from the left, but you know.
Well, so here's what I think happened. Like, what happened was,
Yeah.
I think what happened was that, you know, in the, let's say in the 80s and in the 90s, when gay rights and gay issues really became political wedge issues, you know, Democrats were, I think Democrats really inserted themselves in a very manipulative and clever way as being more tolerant than Republicans. But they were just really kind of sneakier about it. Because, you know, Bill Clinton was sort of like, well, I'm going to end the ban on gays in the military, but I'm going to enact this don't ask, don't tell policy, which actually kind of made things worse in a lot of ways. Because then all of these gay people were allowed to come in and serve their country and, you know, make all these huge sacrifices and do these amazing things. And then God forbid they look at somebody wrong or piss somebody off, that person can go and say, hey, he's gay, you know, and then they get dishonorably discharged, you know. And this happened time and time and time again. And it was also the Democrats who instituted the Defense of Marriage Act, I believe. And so, I mean, but they were able, I think, to market themselves and message themselves as saying like, hey, we're taking steps to help you guys, and the Republicans hate you, and we're running into all this interference and stuff. And and then the Republicans, I think, really shot themselves in the foot when culture, our culture started to move more and more toward LGBT rights. I mean, it was so clear that the writing was on the wall, that public opinion is starting to embrace gay marriage and things like this. And then all these different Republican groups step forward and we're trying to like repeal marriage equality and trying to fight against it. And it was such a losing battle, and it was so stupid. And I think that really locked in the Republicans are homophobic and Democrats are the good guys narrative. But what's so just, it's so infuriating, I think, about it is that like Democrats are allowed to evolve, because Barack Obama was against gay marriage. Hillary Clinton was against gay marriage. Joe Biden was against gay marriage. But now they're all, oh God, we're so for gay marriage. And Republicans are in the exact same boat. Most Republicans that I know didn't support gay marriage 10 years ago. And now they're like, I just don't care anymore. I don't care. It's fine. But they're not allowed to evolve. You know, they're just like, no, it's too late. It's too late for you to change your mind. Or, you know, they're lying. Yeah, the number of direct messages and emails I get on a daily basis from people saying, you know, these guys are lying to you, right? They're all using you. And as soon as the election's over, they're all going to turn on you and all this stuff. And I'm like, why are Democrats allowed to evolve, but Republicans can't?
Right. Why do we get like, not we, I mean, I'm in the middle, but it's like, yeah, why does one group get like stamped into a box? You can't move. And it's like, we're all growing, evolving, taking in new information all the time, which is why it's like, we have to be easier on ourselves and one another. And it's just like, it just seems like the left is being like way, way, way too less forgiving, they're exactly who the opposite of like what I liked about them when I was in college. You know, it's like, oh, we're accepting of everybody. And then I think also the right and the conservatives had like maybe the religion angle too. And if the people who were like really devout Christian, really anti-gay in that way, maybe that's part of how this narrative was created. But it's crazy. And it's like, and I feel like celebrities who support Trump are blacklisted. Like, how many celebrities, or you know, do we hear about that are pro Trump? It just seems like, well, like the media in Hollywood is so left, and they're just not gonna lift up any voice that is not singing their song. So
Right.
it's pretty scary. There's also this notion that, like, you know, Black people can't be racist. There's no such thing as reverse racism. There's only, you know, this idea that all white people are inherently racist. There can be no other racism other than for white people towards other races. And it's crazy. I've seen just over this summer videos alone, and then look at what happened to you. Jesus. It's like, the idea that Black people can't be racist too, or no other race can be racist because they are on this, you know, victim triangle or whatever. I mean, how did that come about?
Well, because this is all, it's so, oh God, it makes you want to like pull
It's
your brain out of your
infuriating.
head and
Yeah.
smack it on the table. Because basically, they are everything that they accuse everyone else of being, and the other person usually is not those things whatsoever. So they love to talk about systemic racism, right? Like, systemic racism stuff. That is, they are creating that system of racism right there. If you're telling people only one group of people is capable of being racist and another group of people is never capable of being racist, meanwhile, that group of people is constantly bringing up the other person's race and using it as justification to hurt them or do damage to them, whatever. But then you say, no, that's not racism. You're the racist. That's systemic racism.
Yeah.
God damn it. And it's like, so, I mean, it's all designed, but see, the gay community does this too. Everything is designed to try to marginalize heterosexual white people. Because if you're heterosexual and you're white, you obviously embody everything that's wrong with everybody's lives and everybody's culture. And so there has to be this sort of unified effort to collect everybody else together and wage a war against these people. So what the gay community has done, cleverly, or I mean, arguably cleverly, is they've reignited or they've taken ownership of this word queer. And so we don't, you know, these people who are really indoctrinated and entrenched into leftist ideology, they don't use words anymore like gay, bisexual, lesbian. They call it the queer. Oh, I'm a queer person. The queer community, queer. The reason why they do that is because they're trying to incorporate every identity that is not heterosexual. So if you're gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, or these nonsense identities like non-binary, gender fluid, gender queer, you know, or even like they even integrate race. Sometimes black or brown is considered queer. So it's so dumb. But I've actually, you know, I've debated some of these boneheads before, and I've demanded that they tell me, define what queer means. Like, this is your identity. I didn't make it up, you did. So what is it? What is queer? And first they'll start off by saying everything it isn't. Well, I'm not really gay, but I'm not really straight, so you're bisexual. No, and I'm not really male, but I'm not really female. So it's, okay, whatever. So, but ultimately I'll say, so who isn't queer? You know, and they'll say, well, basically anybody who's not a straight white person. I'm like, boom, there it is. Because you're trying to exclude these majority classes in a tactical way to be able to attack them.
Wow. And it's a way to kind of, do you think part of the motivation is to like, it's like creating teams, I guess. If they think there's straight white people, well, we need to expand our terms. We need a blanket term. We need to push the queer thing. That way we get everybody together so that we have enough to feel like we can go against. Like, This is
Right.
interesting because I interviewed, I don't know if you've heard of Jessica Curson. She's a female comic and she's a lesbian. And I did an interview with her a couple months back. Same thing. She was like, I am not going to call myself queer. I'm a lesbian. Like I refuse, and echoing the same thing you had. Like, it's like my existence and my story is not going to be invalidated just because you want to push like this queer terminology.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
got, that's
I think
infuriating. Yeah.
according to their thought process, it's like, white straight people hold all the power. So they have to find a way to try to equalize the power. And so that's why they create these terms that try to just rope in everybody who's not straight and white, so they can say the queer community, which is Black people, brown people, gay people, lesbian people, bisexual people, and gender identity radicals. It's all of us versus straight white America. They're just trying to kind of build their ranks that way.
Wow. Yeah, it is kind of
For sure.
clever. It is like sneakily clever. Do you think that the people who attacked you in DC, like, did they know you were leaving the Republican convention?
Mm-hmm.
They knew. Were there a lot of people coming out the way that you were
Yes.
coming out?
This all happened just within a few blocks of the White House.
Wow.
And so we were all exiting the RNC convention and everybody was dressed really nicely. That's another way that they could tell.
That's how they get you.
Yeah. You're not going to see any of these
Your
people
pants
wearing
fit.
all
Get
that.
over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So, there was that. We were dressed up, and also, a lot of people are wearing American flag pins or, just different little Americana kind of things. And God knows they don't do that either. So, these people are triggered by seeing an American flag.
Did you hear that like somebody was trying to go on Frontier Airline and he had an American flag mask and he literally got kicked off the flight for having something with an American flag on it. It's like fucking wild. Yeah.
It's insane. Yeah. Well, and we did one of our Rescue America rallies in San Francisco last weekend. And a big group of us went to a restaurant afterwards, like dozens of us, and one of my friends was wearing an American flag like shirt, and I swear to God, and I had on, and somebody gave me those headbands that have like things hang,
Oh yeah, the antennas.
The antennas, yeah. Somebody gave me a headband with American flags on an antenna, so I was just wearing it just like to be funny, right? So I had it on. And I am telling you, as I was walking through, because it was a crowded restaurant, like I could see people's expression. You would think literally like I had the Nazi flag like on my thing, and I was like belching in their faces.
Wow.
They were like,
how sad. It's so sad. Like it used to be, the MAGA hat was the triggering thing. And the fact that it's now expanded to anything that has anything to do with America, it's like, you guys are not making yourselves look good. It's like, you're making yourselves look very anti-American, and
they are.
It's but just like the fact that they're not aware of how bad the optics are, it's like maybe they just think that this is attractive and that they're going to build their ranks this way. And I don't know. I feel like these people are just like unhappy in their lives. And like when I listen to people and when I read like long threads on Twitter of like friends of mine who go off on Trump, and it's like the longer they write, the more it's like, I feel like this is just about you, and it's like a lot of people looking to blame someone for the shit not going right in their lives. And it's like, yeah, is it Trump's fault, or is it the fact that like you're not that good of a comedian? Like, is it Trump's fault, or do you have a shitty work ethic?
100%. Yes. And they like, a lot of these people will go on these long unhinged rants where, it's just so, and it's, first of all, I always think to myself, politics aside, why would you want to reveal that much of your psyche to anybody, like about any topic? Like, I don't want to reveal on social media all of my insecurities and everything that goes on in that little voice in the back of my, save some of that stuff for your pillow, like
the journal, get a journal. It's because it's messy up there. And just like we said before, like you're always changing, you're always growing, you're always learning new things about yourself and the world. We all have those days. We all have days where shit is happening and we could write a long post, but it's like, Yeah, that's out there and people remember you by that instead of like, okay, log that quietly, work on yourself, get a therapist, whatever you need to do, go work out. Yeah, it's messy. Like, why would you share be so willing to share like the messiest, worst part of your day or whatever? Not that you
The
can't
messiest
share.
stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's like you said though too. I mean, it all kind of boils down to like, it's not my responsibility that things are not as I wish they were in my own life or whatever. And some of these people are like in their 40s and 50s, and I'm
Oh
like,
my
girl, he's been
God.
president for 3 years. Like,
Yeah.
can you stop pretending like, like shit was all aces in your life until Donald Trump came along?
Yeah, it's really not cute. It's really like I look at these, folks online, like friends of mine or colleagues or whatever. I'm just like, wow, you guys got to grow up. Like it's really not. Trump is not responsible for your being miserable. Are you worried about the election? We've been seeing a lot about, Hillary saying Joe Biden should not concede the election under no circumstances. It seems like maybe both sides have been saying the other side is going to fuck with the election. There's also a lot of evidence out there to believe that the Democrats are going to just drop a boatload of mail-in ballots at the last minute. So what are your thoughts?
Am I worried about fraud or tampering? Is that what you're asking?
Yes. Yes.
Well, yeah, no, I am. Yes, I am. But I try to take my cues on some of those issues from the president himself.
Oh,
And
okay. Yeah.
well, I mean, if he's taking steps, to kind of clean out some of the, crap within the post office. Um, but I'm a believer that the president doesn't say things unless he has some ideas of what's going to happen. I mean,
He's a smart guy. He's smarter than most people give him credit for.
he's super smart, and in addition to being really smart, he's got a huge ego, and he's got he's very braggadocious, and he's not going to put himself in a position to brag about something that's going to make him look foolish next week or next month or whatever. So I never get like cocky or I'm that's why I'm working literally every single day until the election to do everything I can possibly do to sway the outcome of the election. But I also, during those times when I'm feeling insecure about it or uncertain or worried, I look at what he's saying, and oftentimes he'll be like, he'll put out that little tweet that's like, the four best years are still to come or whatever, and I'm like, there's a reason he's saying, like, he knows, like he knows the polls are off, he knows, or maybe there's internal polling that's showing something much more clearly than what the information we're getting. So sorry, yeah, to answer your question, yes, of course I'm concerned about it. I am, but I also think that we're being given little signs and signals that we're okay,
Yeah, that's a really great thing to keep in mind because I do feel like Trump subtly, I mean, it's him having such access and being Twitter not being able to censor him. I know they tried, but him being able to have such direct access to the American people through Twitter has like really changed the game because I feel like a lot of his tweets are trying to like subtly reassure us or let people know that maybe he does know about Q. Maybe he, is taking down, child sex trafficking rings.
Yeah,
It's been really great to just like have a president who tweets so much.
I agree.
It's like you're not going to agree with every single thing he says, and a lot of people like I was talking to my dad a couple weeks ago and he lives in Florida. It's like we grew up, he was a landscaper. We had no health insurance. My mom didn't work until I was in first grade. She got a job as a secretary at like the middle school. So we were not like rolling in cash.
Right.
And then he got very, very lucky because he had a truck driver license. He was able to get a Teamster job when I was in high school and then did crazy overtime. I mean, they'll work like 14-hour days and just like, make a ton of overtime, whatever. And then the three of us were able to go to college, whatever. So he's like, has some money, I guess, I mean, he's not giving any of it to me, but it's like he lives in Naples, Florida. And, just to talk to him. I was like trying to talk a little bit with him about the election, and he was just like, I don't like Trump because of his personality. And I was like, you're 70 something years old and that's the best you've got? Like that's your summation? Like, I was just like disappointed, and like I couldn't believe, but I also think he's dating like a new liberal woman. I don't know.
Well, I also think, I mean, these people need to get a grip about like, and listen, I identify with this because I voted for Hillary and I was like shattered when Trump got elected. Like I was totally on the other side of the fence. And, so I get why they think what they think, but excuse me, kind of having the transition that I've had and now being on the other side, I'm like, why do you give so much power, like culturally, to what our president says or does? Like policy, I get it. He's the one shaping, making decisions, great. But it's like, if the president has a rude sense of humor,
who gives a fuck? Yeah.
Move the fuck on. Like, it's just,
yeah.
Well, now everyone's gonna have a rude sense of humor. And it's like, first of all, you guys are already dicks. Like, all of you guys have that, like, he can't make you guys any worse.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
So
yeah, it's more just like, let's blame him for everything. And I'm like, Dad, you think Trump has a bad personality? I'm like, I remember a time that you were talking about some guy cut you off and you rear-ended him on purpose with your truck. I'm like, you told me that story. You did that on purpose. You caused this guy like a lot of damage or whatever. Like, you did that purely out of spite, yet you're like getting wrapped up in Trump's personality.
Yeah, but
like,
I'm not president.
Oh my God. It's like, is his personality affecting your day-to-day life? It really doesn't have to. If you don't like his sense of humor, don't follow him on Twitter. Don't don't hang on every soundbite. Oh my God. I was just like blown away. I was like, the judgment over this guy who I would just like many times just find passed out in the living room with like 10 beers around him. I'm like, really? He's the one with the bad personality? You threw a chair at me when I was 8. Like, let's all, come on. He missed. I'm fine. I'm just like blown away. Like, you think people that are older than you, like especially your parents, I think we idolize our parents when we're younger, and then you grow up and you're like, oh, these are just other adults who happened to birth me, and raise me, and they're not going to be like always the smartest.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I'm very aware about the humanity of parents, that discovery as we get older.
Did they, are your parents super proud of you? Have they, watched you on TV? I mean, like, have you got, like, family wise, are you getting praise and like validation from this? I mean, it's like you're doing really great things and you're a leader. So,
thank you.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah, I would say yes, they're definitely proud, and I think they're happy, because they themselves have been conservatives and they had to, deal with me before as a liberal, which I can't even begin to fathom what that was probably like, in retrospect. But yeah, they're definitely very supportive and I think proud.
Were they just like, oh, wow, you did a 180, but I think that's maybe it just happens as you get older, you change.
Well, I remember distinctly this. So my parents live in this tiny little town in Nebraska, and it's about almost a 4-hour drive from the nearest airport, which is in Omaha. So it's always kind of a nightmare when I go home to visit and for a long time, because living in New York, it's kind of so when I first moved to New York, I was kind of a hot mess. Like, I was drinking. I'm almost 6 years sober now. So like, I had a big
congrats.
Okay, thank you. But like, when I first moved to New York, I was a total hot mess, and I made all these bad decisions that like really affected me for a long time after. One of those decisions was to let my driver's license lapse when I got to New York, which was like it. So I literally went for well over 15 years not having a driver's license, like not.
And it's so easy to do because you don't drive in New York City at all.
No. And once you let it lapse, it is a nightmare to get it back. Getting a driver's license in New York, I mean, it's like you have to give a blood sample, you have to give them bone marrow, you have to do the whole thing. It's really, really hard. And so anyway, so when I would go home to visit them for Christmas, whatever, I'd have to fly to Omaha, and then they would have to come pick me up, and then 4-hour drive back to their house together in the car.
Oh boy.
And so after I had my awakening, but before I started Walkaway, so there was no Walkaway. I was just a guy by myself who had had this awakening that I was no longer a Democrat and whatever. And I remember when I went home, it was probably for Christmas that year. And they came and picked me up, and I spent the entire 4 hours talking about everything. I was like, and did you know the media lies? And I just remember this car ride where literally for 4 hours, I talked nonstop about everything I had discovered about the Democrats, the liberals, and the liberal media. And my parents were just like, my dad's like looking at my mom in the rearview mirror like, no shit, Sherlock.
Oh God. You're like, but I'm excited about it. It's new for me.
I was.
Yeah.
And I haven't stopped talking about it since.
Yeah. It really is. It's crazy. Like I think March was my sort of like red pilling waking up time. Because I did the same Tripoli's tinfoil hat podcast in LA, and it's just like a lot of things clicked together, and I was like, kid, I knew the thing about the media, but I just like didn't realize how much and how bad and like how much of an effect they really have. But I think they have less of an effect, you know, when you see guys like Tim Pool hit 1 million subscribers and these sort of like alternative news personalities, you know, climbing, like, okay, great. Not, you know, a lot of people are not just watching mainstream media all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Do you feel like the walk away movement is more just like we're walking away from being Democrats? Like, is it more like we're walking towards the Republican Party, or is it more like, you know, just kind of a detaching and being open-minded and seeing, you know, where that takes you?
The latter, because we actually have, so I designed Walkaway the way that I did, with everything was with intention and purpose. Like, so from day one, the mission statement of Walkaway has stated, like, this is not a movement about telling people what to think or what to believe or how they should vote or where they should go. I am never, Brandon Straka, the person, might talk to you about why I'm a Republican and why I love Trump and why I think other people should love Trump and whatever. But the walkaway movement is never going to say, oh, you can't be a part of this movement unless you like Trump or unless you vote Republican. We have kind of a motto that we've had since the beginning, which is walkaway is a journey, not a destination. So your journey is your journey. And we in this movement are there to support every person, and we don't care. Honest to God, I don't even care if someone walks away from the Democratic Party and votes for Joe Biden. If they tell me, you know, these are my reasons for doing it, and I've really researched this. I mean, if you can tell me, I know Trump's not a racist, I know Trump's not a bigot, I know all the stuff the media is saying about him is not true, I know that his supporters are none of these things, but this is how I feel about healthcare, and this is how I feel about whatever, and I feel like great, I'm not going to talk you out of, well, I may debate you on it and try to change your mind, but
like, look, I love whispering. I like falling asleep too, you know, he's my guy.
Right. Well, but you know, so we have people in Walkaway that identify as libertarians, independents. Some of them identify as Republicans, but they don't love Trump. Fine.
Sounds pretty inclusive.
It is. It's very inclusive. And some of them still identify as Democrats, but they're just like, you know, this is not the Democratic Party that I signed up for. This is not the ideology of liberalism that I'm on board with. And so the only thing that we just insist upon is that you do your own homework, do your own research, think for yourself, be civilized, engage with other people, ask questions, debate issues in a way that's kind and productive. Don't call people names. Don't, you know, categorize people as Nazis and racists and try to cancel them and ruin their lives. You know, and be willing to change your mind. But I mean, that's sort of like the mission statement and the policies that we have. The truth is, we rarely have to institute those policies, because what happens is, once people wake up to what they're doing, they naturally don't want to be a part of it anymore. And then there usually is a bridge of time, which I think that we we fill that space, walk away fills that space very nicely. Most people make their way over to Trump on their own because
Yeah.
eventually they see that everything that they've come to despise about liberalism in the Democratic Party, Trump is actively fighting against. And this
Yeah.
is the reason why so many people are drawn to Trump. But I know that when I was starting to wake up to what the Democrats are and the liberals are, if somebody had said to me, you have to become a Republican, you have to support Trump, I probably would have jumped right back in and been like, fuck you
Yeah,
know?
it's jarring, it's scary. A lot of people tie up their identity and their political beliefs. A lot
Yeah,
of people's friends are also tied up. It's very group mentality. Identity politics is very this team against this team, and like that's what's so important about what you're doing is like you're like, I hate saying creating a space, but you're like literally creating a space for people who are dislodging from the left. And it's like, right, it is kind of jarring and scary to then jump and be like, oh, now I gotta buy a MAGA hat and, you know, get a tiki torch or whatever people think that
yeah,
being a Republican is. It's like, okay, here's your kind of like cool off space, and this is a place where you can talk to other people. And that's what I love too about this movement. It's like you're engaging in encouraging conversation and not like, I'm gonna cut off my uncle, I'm gonna cut off my dad, I'm gonna stop
right.
talking to all my friends from high school. It's a place to land and regroup and get your thoughts together, and like, yeah, like here's a place where you can start like thinking for yourself again and meet people who are doing the same.
Exactly. Yep. And it's very supportive and it's very fun. I mean, we're like I said, you know, we're right now what we're doing is traveling around the country doing these Rescue America rallies on a weekly basis. And I've gotten to the point where I'm like, we're having so much fun doing them because that's the other thing too, is I think a lot of people feel like, oh, activism is boring. Activism is like, I love my country and I'm concerned, but I don't want to spend my weekends out doing activism. I'd rather be, you know, doing anything else. But like, it's become my favorite part of my week doing these rallies wherever we are because like we laugh our asses off, you know, and that's even something that I myself have started to, you know, because when you think of like going to a political rally, right? You think of like the megaphones and people, you know, shouting about the issues and stuff. But the last two or three that we've done, I really have gone off script. And I've just been yelling like jokes into the megaphone and just like anything. And like the audience is like laughing their asses off. And when, you know, and then sometimes we'll just start doing a chant that has nothing to do with anything. We're just kind of being funny. And I'm like, why can't activism be fun? Like, why can't we just like laugh our asses off and not take ourselves super seriously while we're doing it? And it's literally become my favorite part of my week is doing these rallies. I mean, we're having such a good time with it.
That's really amazing to hear, because when you look at so many, God, it's like, and I'm constantly looking at comedians, right? But when I look at so many liberal comedians who go to rallies, they are not having fun. They're being like
Oh,
angry and preachy and shitty and like not funny at all, not funny even once.
no.
And then it bleeds into their act, and then their act becomes not funny at all. They're not, it's like they've forgotten the point of comedy. And then there's someone like you who I don't think is like a, I mean, I'm sensing perhaps a theater background, but I don't think maybe, I don't
True.
think, you know, you're like practicing comedy, but like you're probably, you know, you're definitely cracking people up, making
Yeah.
jokes. And it's like, that's what it should be. That's how you bring people together.
For the record, and you and I should stay in touch. Stand-up comedy is something I always wanted to do. I actually
Oh,
think that I am
yes.
naturally very funny and like, um, so it's on my bucket list. And as you know, like I said, everything right now is just like my eyes are focused on the election. But I think when there's a little breathing room next year, because it's an off year, it's an, you know, in 2022, we'll have to start looking at the midterms again. I really want to allow some space for myself to do some of these things I've always wanted to do. And I don't even give a shit if I bomb. I don't care if I'm terrible. I just want to do it, you know? And so I'm gonna get up there and give it a shot.
I will definitely hook you up and help you out with that, because it's like crazy. You're going to be better than a lot of established comedians that have just been like slogging away at open mics for years. Cause it's like, you already are comfortable on a stage. You're already good with public speaking. You know yourself, you're comfortable with yourself. And so I feel like that's half the battle when it comes to stand up. So
Well,
for
and are
sure.
there many comics that I know, I don't even have, I know it's not the majority, but are there very many comics that are telling the truth about like liberalism and talking about like identity politics and like That in itself, I like. I would love to
Oh
go to New
yeah.
York City Club and just blast liberals.
Like from a commercial standpoint and like from a Hollywood standpoint, no. Comedy Central is all like the liberal mob. It's like they're pushing an agenda. Like I don't know if they're pushing an agenda so much as like, yeah, they may have Comedy Central may have shows that are like, we are United Colors of Benetton. We have the whole rainbow, but it's not diversity of thought or diversity of message. It's like the comedians may look different, but it's like they're all kind of saying the same thing. And then there's and like late night too. It's like I know like Colbert, like they're gonna like shave off parts of your set, as with all late night sets are. That's just like a lot of it is shaving down parts until it's like this thing that this like fraction of what your set was before, and it's got like a lot of rules or whatever. And then there's Compound Media, which I've been doing a show. It's like a subscriber network in the city. You have to come do my show sometime. And I have this show that I've been doing there called The Wet Spot for about a year. And it's like a sex, dating, relationship advice talk show kind of show. And it was interesting because when I got that show, I was like, there's only so much time. And also I was getting, I was weirdly transitioning from doing the Stonewall Inn show to doing like my Compound Media weekly show. Like Stonewall was a monthly, and also the booker there was like really fucking around with my dates. I was like, all I want is the same date every month, first Saturday of the month. Not so much to ask for, but he'd be like, no. He would like try to like move me last minute. He's like, we have a really important Madonna sing along that has to happen, and we need your Saturday for it. And I'd be like, I already spent all this money on advertising. I booked all these people. So I get it. He didn't, it's like a LGBT landmark. It's not necessarily like comedy first. It like broke my heart, but I was like, I had to say goodbye because it was like I was doing too much bending over backwards. So anyway, and I was like moving to the Compound Media show, but Compound Media has some people like have this bad impression of Compound Media because it started by Anthony Cumia, formerly of like Opie and Anthony. They were popular like when we were, I guess, in high school or whatever. Not to assume your age, but and what?
6 years ago.
6 years ago. No, the Opie and Anthony show is from when we were like in high school.
6 years ago.
Oh, also 6 years ago. They were on the air for many years. All right, shut up. And then 6 years ago, he started Compound Media, whatever. That's the point. I think a lot of people have a bad impression of Compound Media because Gavin McGinnis had a show on there. Milo Yiannopoulos had a show. I think he rents the studio out to do his other show. And it's like, they're like, oh, it's associated with the Proud Boys, even though it's not. And it's people think Compound Media is like this alt-right network, and it's not. And I heard all these things coming in. And then I start there and I'm like, oh, these are the funniest, best people I've met. They have the best sense of humor. They don't take themselves seriously. They don't hate anybody. It's like equal opportunity humor. And they were far more accepting than the group that I had just sort of like, and the comedy space I had just come from. So to answer your question, like, yes, a lot of Compound Media comedians are like, kind of like we're exposing the truth about the left, but a lot of it is like the subscribers already sort of are on board with that. So sometimes it's like preaching to the choir. But I find like through Twitter and social media, it's like you're reaching more and more people. And through doing this podcast, I've been reaching more people. And so it's like, it's getting out there. I think it's sort of following. I think comedy also follows culture. So for like through the Obama era, it was all this like woke comedy was kind of in vogue. And now it's like less PC, less cancel culture. People are waking up about the media. So it's kind of like it's shifting a little bit back.
Good.
Yeah.
Glad to hear that. So when did you go to high school?
I graduated in 2001. Maybe I'm a lot older than you. I don't know.
No. I'm 43. So I graduated.
Oh my God. Are you kidding? You must moisturize.
I do. I graduated in 95.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Are you from New York?
No, I'm from Nebraska.
Oh, right. All right. I was listening. You did say that earlier.
That little town 4 hours from Omaha.
Oh, I wanted to talk about this too. So speaking of the media, in July, I guess a few news sources reported that your movement, the walkway movement, was fictitious. And they claimed that some of your members, like giving like their kind of, you know, video stories, and they're like, you know, they're sort of coming out stories in a sense. Like all these testimonials that said that they were models and that walk away is connected to Russian propaganda. And this was just a couple months ago, right? I mean,
No. That was mostly in 2018.
okay. Was it
We
July?
first started.
Okay.
But I mean, it was much more harmful then than I wish it was a couple of months ago.
Okay.
I mean,
That makes more sense that as you were just getting going, there was a
right.
pushback. Yeah.
Yeah, and even Stephen Colbert did a whole piece in his show about it, saying that Walkaway was stock images of people. So, okay, what actually happened was, and it's a couple different things that they all kind of combined together. So, Walkaway started in May of 2018. It was really successful, really fast, because it was like a bottleneck effect.
Wow.
All of these people wanted this thing that suddenly came along, and they're like, yes, now I'm going to walk away too, thank God, because I hate these people. And so people started, you know, the testimonials were like flying through the roof. They still are, by the way. If you go to Walkaway Campaign on Facebook, it's
Ooh.
like we're flooded on a daily basis with these testimonials. I mean, so many, and they're amazing. But so obviously it got big enough that the media couldn't ignore it anymore. So they had to figure out, how are we going to talk about this while also invalidating it? So I actually believe that liberals created the fake memes, because what happened was these memes started coming out with people's faces on them. We didn't create them. It had nothing to do with us. But these memes started showing up on social media with people's faces on them. And it had like a banner at the top that said like, I walked away because blah, blah, blah. And it didn't have our logo. This is our official logo. You can see the trademark. Like, it didn't have our logo. It didn't have the trademark. It didn't look anything like what Walkaway produced. It just said like, I walked away, blah, 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 walk away. And so then all of a sudden these memes came out, and then suddenly somebody in the media discovered that they were all created using Shutterstock stock images, which was true. They were.
Okay.
But we didn't fucking make them. They weren't, you know. So I actually think the left created the memes and then created the story to be like, oh, this whole thing was fake all along. It's all, you know, it was created by the Republicans.
Wow.
Yeah. And then they also said that all of the people using the hashtag on Twitter and Facebook stuff were Russian bot accounts, that they weren't real people.
God. Did you see that video recently of Pelosi? She was basically like outing what the Democrats do. She's basically saying like, yeah, you create a false narrative and then you have the press write about it, which validates it. And then you can use those press articles to then validate it yourself further. And it's like this cyclical bullshit cycle.
What was the term she used? Do you remember? She had a term for it.
God.
It's called something. I'm going to look that up, because yes, that's exactly.
No, it's like, it blew me away, and it's been like circling around on social media, and then people are like, this is exactly what they do. They create bullshit. They pay the press to legitimize it, and then it just continues, and they use that to like bolster themselves. I was like, wow.
I'm like literally Googling it
and
right now.
then she goes and gets her hair done sneakily and secretly.
She's so awful. She's so awful. Why do they keep supporting her? Tell me.
I don't know, because she's a woman, I guess, but she's white. Aren't they supposed to hate white
White,
people?
and she's crazy, and she's always grinding her jaw like she's on meth. And
yeah, slurring and old and full of Botox. Yeah, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with Botox, but she's just fucking horrible. I hated her since the like sarcastic clap. When she did the like, and then she tore the speech up. Oh man, I gotta look up what that is, like what the term was. It was like warping. It was like because now that's gonna really bother me too.
Circular narratives.
Oh yeah.
So obvious. It's just awful. So do we just go until one of us falls asleep, or like what?
No, we're gonna wrap this up. We're gonna wrap. I was losing track of the time, and I just wanted to make sure we got to everything. Brandon, before we sign off, tell the lovely people where your next rallies will be, next appearances, events, and such.
Sure. So I would recommend that people go to walkawaycampaign.com. And when they go there, they can click on rallies and they can see where we're headed next. Like, I'm going to be in Dallas in a few days. Hence my Dallas look right now. And then we're also going to like Florida, Nashville. I think we're going back. You know what? Go to walkawaycampaign.com, click rallies, because I can't remember all this stuff that we're doing. But then I also want people to really pay attention to, if they go to our website, walkawaycampaign.com, click on the tab that says Ultimate American Weekend, because this is the event that we want everyone to come to from all over the country. It's a 2-day, dare I say, festival that we're throwing in Washington, D.C. The first night opens with the Walkaway American Women's Town Hall with Laura Trump, Judge Janine Pirro, Diamond and Silk, Katie Hopkins. I'm speaking to some other really big names, right now, to be a part of that. And then the next day, this is all in Washington, D.C. The next day is the Unsilent Majority March on Washington. We already have over 7,000 people signed up to come to this event. I know we're easily going to have over 10,000 by the time we get to October 3rd, which is the day of. We're going to have incredible speakers like Dan Crenshaw, God, I wish I could say more, but I'm in talks right now with some very, very, very big people to be speakers, like as big as it gets, if you know what I'm saying.
Is it Candace Owens? Is
No.
it as big as it gets, like Trump?
I can neither confirm.
We will neither confirm nor deny.
If it is the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, and Kelly McEnany. I can't confirm.
We will not confirm nor deny.
Spoke to somebody directly about having those people come. As soon as I can confirm, I will confirm.
Perfect.
And it's going to be...
Sounds like an amazing event. What a lineup already.
Yeah, come be a part of it. Come be around your people. Come be around like people who don't just like to smash windows and steal Gucci handbags to fight racism.
Yeah.
Come be around people who actually like our country.
I mean, who doesn't want a Gucci handbag? I mean, it's just, I'm not going to go and steal one.
Well, if you want it bad enough and you're fighting racism, you're welcome to go help yourself.
I think all bags matter. Brandon, where can people follow you on social media?
Well, they can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Brandon Straka. And my last name is spelled Straka, but it's pronounced Straka. If you call me Brandon Straka, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't hurt me in any way, shape, or form. It's just that's not actually my name. My name is Brandon Straka. But you can follow me at Brandon Straka. And you can also follow me, for Christ's sake, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have over 500,000 Twitter followers, and I still get like less than 1,000 views on my YouTube videos. So maybe stop being assholes and go subscribe to my YouTube channel and watch my fucking videos.
Yeah.
Because I put a lot of effort
work into it. Stop being an asshole. Look at the hat. Look at, come on. He's doing the most here.
I'm doing everything a person can possibly do, and you guys are giving me nothing in return.
Disrespectful. Guys, I expect more from you. Well, hopefully this audience will step it up for you. Brandon, thank you so much for coming on. Wonderful to hear about everything you're doing. We'll stay in touch. We'll get you on stage after the election. Yeah, I'm excited.
I would love that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.